Hey guys, it's DC here, and today I want to talk to you about what you can invest in with a cybersecurity salary. Now, to be honest, with most cybersecurity salaries, you could potentially invest in anything as long as you're smart with it. But I thought for this video, I would give you examples of exactly what I invest in to keep my sort of side hustles going, basically. So for me, there's sort of three topics that I look at. One is residual income, one is rental income, and the other one is just fun little projects that I invest in that hopefully I'll get money back from. My residual income projects are just little projects or startup type businesses that I run on the side, like AirDesker and Hiver, which are just little businesses on the side that basically will earn me a little bit of money without too much input from myself. Just like fun stuff that I've built basically, and then left to go and will eventually come back to one day. My rental income is actually from properties that I own that I purchased while I was working full time. And to get those properties, I basically bought one, sold everything that I had to be able to afford it, didn't go out too much, ate a lot of noodles and tuna sandwiches.
Tuna on white, no crust, right?
I don't know, how is it?
Drove around in pretty average cars, to be honest, like that hacker van that I had once. It was a very cheap choice, and I actually went from a much nicer car at the time to having that one so that I could afford a house. After I've then bought the house, I then rent out each room as a share house, and yeah, I usually buy them in areas where the general demographic for that area is a demographic that can't really afford a house, so rental is sort of high in that area. I then hire a property manager to look after the properties, and then I just pay them however much it is for them to look after it, and I just get the cream off the top of the rentals. And most of them do positive gear, which means I have to pay more in tax, but that's okay because you can actually offset that by doing maintenance and buying things and making things better, like buying some new solar panels, for example, or putting in some water tanks on the side, or making it into like a more green house is usually what I go for. It adds value to the property, which is always nice, and it's good for the environment as well, which makes me feel good at least. After that, there is investing in other startups, which I do, which is more of a fun project to look after the guys that I think projects are going to go somewhere, and it's usually based more off the actual person who runs that startup rather than the idea they have. Of course, the idea definitely comes into it, because I wouldn't fund a terrible idea. It's more like you're basically placing a bet on the jockey and not so much the horse, if that makes sense. A lot of the times these sort of startups are run by people who have already done other startup projects, and they have a record of success, or at least some sort of success there, that they can prove that they've done it before, they can do it again. So it's a fairly safe bet, but it's still fairly risky in comparison. The only difference between the three really is that some of them are less risky than others, and some of them cost more to get into than others. So obviously real estate starts at around 300,000 for anything decent to rent out, which is, it's pretty normal around my area. I keep it local so I can keep a fairly close eye on things usually, and yeah, it works for me that way, so that's exactly why I do it that way. With residual income as well, there is obviously my YouTube channel, which does generate a little bit of revenue, but it's pretty much beer money, to be honest. I think to actually make like good money off YouTube, you would probably have to have roughly 100,000 subscribers or more, and a lot of watch hours. So you would need to have some pretty viral hits in there, like a couple of 1 million view videos, to be able to make at least like $70 a day. Otherwise, so if anything less than that it's not really worthwhile. It's not something I do for the money. It's more just for the fun of it and to, you know, give you guys some information. But yeah, the between the projects and the real estate and funding of other people's projects, together they all make a pretty tidy little package. The story actually of my first property is I bought it around 6 or 7 years ago, and at the time I was running an IT computer shop. It was a repair shop, and I essentially sold that business to another guy who had a like IT repair business as well, and yeah, he bought that. I used the deposit for that, as well as there was a thing at the time called the First Homeowners Grant, which which is a grant from the government that they gave you to buy your first house. With that grant though, I had to live in the house for 1 year, which is exactly what I did, but I rented out the rooms that I wasn't using. So it's a 4-bedroom house that I bought, and it was roughly 280 or 260,000. I can't even remember anymore. The property value now is around 310,000, which is pretty good after 6 or 7 years of just sort of sitting there, but it's been positive gearing the entire time. So if you imagine a repayment on $280,000 loan is roughly $350 a week, and if you're renting out each room for $150, 150 times 4 is positive gearing. So the only problem then is that because you're positive gearing, you have to claim that money on your personal income, which means you're going to get taxed more. And like I said before, the way to get around that is to do maintenance or add value to your house by either installing like I choose solar panels and water tanks because it's green and it's essentially going to help me make more money, because then I'm taking away from using water and electricity to using free water and free electricity. So it's like sort of swings and roundabouts, and it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but being able to earn 150 to upwards of that from a cybersecurity salary does enable you to do these sort of things and to potentially buy a house. Now, especially potentially if you're living with like your parents, for example, you're 20 to 30 years old, you're living with your parents, and you're working in a cybersecurity job, which is possible, and some people are doing that at the moment. If you're banking $150,000 and you just put that to the side and pay board at your parents' house and a little bit of food and going out and stuff like that, you're still going to have an absolute truckload of money left over in the end. Definitely enough to buy a house, especially at the moment when interest rates are pretty low and the property market is pretty stagnant, kind of dead, because no one's buying anything because a lot of people are running out of money. So it's a pretty good time to jump into this sort of thing and do that. And there are other options, of course, like stocks and getting into day trading and things like that, which is perfectly fine. It's just not something that I get into myself because it doesn't interest me, to be honest, and I feel like it's not something I could potentially retire on. So the idea with the property is to eventually, when I do retire and decide to become an old hermit somewhere, I can just sell one of the houses, or I can just continue renting them out and have an income on the side, as well as these other startup projects that will potentially make some money on the side. I'm not really relying on things like superannuation, or what US calls 401k, I think. But it's always an option to have there. So who knows, it could happen. Maybe I will go down that route and do it that way. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think about my sort of investment strategy here for retirement. What would you guys invest in if you were making $150,000 a year? What sort of projects would you maybe want to get involved in? Is this sort of something that's interesting to you? I'm trying out these new sort of video ideas around cybersecurity, but not exactly cybersecurity. So this one's obviously more about investment, but I thought it might be interesting. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think, and maybe I'll make some more of these. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give me a thumbs up, subscribe for more. I'll catch you on the next one, and have a great life.
Do you think I want this?